Hey YouTube, welcome to Sunkerns Lab. Today I have an RU battle on Pokemon Showdown. Now I don't really have much to say before I get into the battle, so let's just get right into the team preview. My opponent has a relatively stall-based team, or at least he has a good core with Tangrowth, Slowking, and Druddigon, and really it's going to be quite difficult to take those three out, and probably going to be my biggest problem, mainly because most of my main attackers find issues with them in one way or another. So I really have to watch out for those, try to wear those down as much as I can before I try to go for a late game sweep, or before I try to finish up the game with anything like Entei's Flare Blitz. So anyway, looking at possible leads on his team, more than likely he's going to lead with his Aerodactyl because it's the only thing on his team that likely sets up hazards, and he might have rocks on his Druddigon, but I doubt it considering that he has an Aerodactyl. So I'm going to lead with my Crustle and hopefully take him out on the first turn. So that's pretty much my game plan from the get-go, and let's get into it. So I lead with my Crustle, like I said, and he does actually end up leading with his Aerodactyl, which is nice. I'm more than likely he's going to go for the taunt on this turn, not wanting me to set up hazards, and he does. I predict that correctly, and I'm able to go for the Stone Edge and take down his Aerodactyl in one hit. I am max speed, max attack Crustle, so I am able to actually take that thing out pretty easily. Now, if he goes into his Druddigon, I'm expecting him to probably... Thanks, truck going by my house. Every time I record. Anyway, I'm predicting him to be a more defensive set, so I decided to go into my Goal Arc, take this opportunity to either set up my Stealth Rocks or just wear him down with Earthquake, because I don't think that he can really touch me. But it turns out he has Rock Slide, and that pretty much guarantees that he is the Sheer Force set, especially on the next turn when he goes for Gunk Shot, which only a Sheer Force Druddigon would run Gunk Shot. But at this point, I'm thinking he either doesn't have anything to touch me with, or he's going to probably go for his Dragon Claw on the next turn, but it turns out that he ends up switching out because he obviously doesn't have anything to touch me with, or so I thought. So I go into my Crustle, he goes into his Tangrowth. Kind of a bad switch for me, however I do want to get up a layer of spikes at least before I get put to sleep, or at least that's my plan. So I go for the spikes, get it up, and he ends up going for a Leech Seed rather than a Sleep Powder, which is fine by me because that just gives me more turns to set up spikes, and that's really what Crustle does. Crustle just sets up spikes, and like I said, I set up yet another layer of spikes. Now I have 2 layers of spikes and rocks up. That's more than enough to be able to sweep with Lilligant. However, I am able to actually set up yet another layer of spikes on his side of the field, and at this point I'm thinking all I need to do is get a good switch into my Lilligant, and I will easily be able to sweep this guy's team, as far as I know. So anyway, my Crustle goes down, but I do end up getting 3 layers of spikes up, so that's definitely a good advantage for me. Now I go into my Manectric. I know he's going to switch, so I decided to go for the Volt Switch rather than the Overheat, and as you can see, this Magmortar takes massive damage from the hazards, and on top of that, he takes a bunch of damage from the Volt Switch as well, and I'm able to switch out of my Manectric and go straight into my Entei, and all I really have to do is go for the Extreme Speed, take out his Magmortar. I don't think he's going to switch, because if he switched out, the Magmortar would die on Hazard switch in next time, so either way the Magmortar is basically useless to him. So now he's going to go into his Druddigon. I don't want to go for the Extreme Speed because I won't be able to kill him, and he's probably going to do some damage to me that I don't really want to take. Excuse me. So I'm going to go into my Goal Arc, and he's going to go for, I believe, the Gunk Shot. Now at this point, I thought earlier he didn't have anything to touch me with, so what I'm going to do is predict him to switch out and make a double switch right out into my Lilligant. Now, unfortunately, it turns out he has a surprise Fire Punch, and punches my Lilligant right in the face. So, unfortunately, I'm going to lose my Lilligant pretty early in the match, and that's pretty annoying because that was my intended sweeper. Now, I didn't expect that Fire Punch at all. However, I can just go to my Goal Arc. I know for a fact I can completely wall him. It doesn't seem like he has Dragon Stab for whatever reason. Either that or he doesn't want to lock himself into Outrage. But either way, I know I can take any hit that this thing has, go for some Drain Punches and get some health back, and proceed to take his hits, and basically just wear this thing down. On the next turn, I'm going to actually go for the Shadow Punch because I thought that with Stab increased, with Stab taking place, it would do enough to take him out maybe. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually do enough, and I am unfortunately going to have to, take another Fire Punch, which is pretty crappy because my Goal Arc is going to be at really low health now. Excuse me. But it's pretty irrelevant because I am able to take out his Druddigon, and I don't really need my Goal Arc for much of anything anyway. So After his Dredagon dies, he's going to go straight out into his Tangrowth, and obviously I don't want to take a Sleep Powder or anything else, just in case he does end up having it. So I go for the Shadow Punch on this turn, do a little bit of damage, and he ends up going for the Leech Seed, which is pretty annoying because now my Golurk isn't going to die, and I'm just going to be feeding him health. So what I decided to do instead is just switch straight out into my Entei. Now Entei can pretty much OKO anything on his team, except for the Slowking, and the Slowking gets 2-hit KO'd by after Hazzard, so I'm basically just going to switch on the Giga Drain and start killing things. Now, I'm going to go for the Flare Blitz on this turn. I know for a fact he's not going to go into his Slowking because he can't take the hits, so he's going to go into his Manectric more than likely. As I predicted, he does do that, and gets taken out by a Flare Blitz, which is a good play on his part. It's his only real option at this point. Not to mention his Manectric is relatively useless because I have a Golurk which is immune to his Volt Switches. Now he does end up going into a Slowking, and I know I can't really be taking Scalds, especially after the Flare Blitz recoil, so I decided to switch into my Golurk, and basically just use this thing as death fodder. I don't need it anymore, and I really have no purpose for it. So, yeah, go into my Golurk, go for, just die to the Scald, and then I can get a free switch into my Manectric, which can then proceed to go for the Thunderbolt. And because I get a free switch into my Manectric, it's pretty much game over, because at this point I can wear down his whole team to the point where Entei can come in whenever my Manectric dies and just clean up the match. So he does end up going for the Scald as I go for the Thunderbolt. He gets the burn, but I'm not really worried about it. I'm not a physical attacker, and I don't really want to stay alive for long anyway. I kind of want to just do some damage and die, so excuse me. He does switch out to get his Regenerator health back, and it goes into his Tangrowth. Now I know at this point he can't just switch around because I'm doing way too much damage to his team, and with all the hazards and stuff, he can't just switch back and forth, so I can just stay in here and go for the Thunderbolt. He's going to have to stay in with his Tangrowth because that's really his only option. So it is indeed what he does. He ends up going for the Leech Seed rather than the Giga Drain. I don't understand his Leech Seeding obsession in this game, but you know, whatever. It would have made more sense if he at least had Protect, but he doesn't show Protect right now, so I don't know. I have no explanation as to why he went for Leech Seed, but either way, I'm gonna go for the Thunderbolt, take out the Tangrowth, and then his last Pokemon is, well, actually I'm gonna die to the burn as well. My bad. And his last Pokemon is the Slowking, and I'm just gonna bring in my Bandit Entei and take this thing out after Stealth Rocks and 3 layers of spikes. Just take it out with a Flare Blitz, and that's going to be the end of the match. Definitely going to be able to take this thing out. It's only at like 10% health. So, yeah, that's pretty much the match. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. This team is pretty old, but it still works relatively well. I use it on pretty much every Pokemon platform because it's just such a good team. It works very well, and you know, it pretty much always gets up hazards as long as the opponent doesn't have a spinner. It pretty much is guaranteed at least rocks and a layer or 2 of spikes. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to click the buttons on your screen, and I will see you next time.